Hey y'all, what it is, Je m'appelle Onze Paul. About to straight drop a real fucking video right now. And that video is on the topic of how you say is what consists of a phone call and what does not consist of a phone call. For an example, someone calls and calls over and over again because it's emergency and they really want to get through, and the other person is being a fucking piece of shit. Like years ago, I had a phobia of living alone by myself, and my brothers and my family would leave me alone in my house at night, and I would call once, and then they would pick up, and and then I would tell my family, "Can we please get somebody over here tonight? I really don't want to be alone in my own house. I got a alonophobia, a fear of being alone. Being alone scares me." And I go to call back. I go to call back 10 minutes later, and they're letting their phone ring and ring and ring like a motherfucking piece of shit. Now, what would happen? Now, I can't even say that on YouTube. Ooh! Now, what would happen if I, to return the favor, picked up a baseball bat and caved in their fucking heads, pieces of shit? And let me tell you a story about that. No, what I'm saying is not a threat. It's legit word for word. In some cases, it happened. Um, there was a case 200 years ago, or 100 years ago in Germany. Is around that time, a quaint little German village. The boy, the boy was not legally old enough. He was, but he was not. The family thought he was legally old enough, and then the boy pleaded with his family, "Don't let me live alone, don't let me live alone. Guten Tag, Fräulein. Do not let me live alone." Poor little Gustav, Gustav Fragenberger, he was forced to live alone, and he kept hearing strange noises at night. It turns out his young Gustav's family paid the villagers to fuck with him and beat on his housing. And when one of the villagers actually broke in and beat the shit out of poor little Gustav, it was found in the police reports of German police that racketeering, that's the first ever that was the first ever charge of racketeering that ever was, must have been. Um, so they got the family on racketeering and provoking because and abandonment, because the German family had abandoned their German son in a shifty, broken down house, and paid the villagers, the German family paid the villagers to fuck around with the German son. And when one of the villagers actually broke into the motherfucker, the housing, and beat the shit out of the little German boy with the baseball bat, and the little German boy had no means to call for help. Um, but an old track phone that he took from his parents' house right before he was kicked out. And all the while, the parents are like, we should have never gave him that phone. We should have never gave him that phone. Why are you a fucking piece of shit? And did you pay someone to beat your son to death? It's, yeah. So that's exactly what this German family did. Paid off the villagers to beat their son to death and beat on his house and fuck with him. Fuck around with him. And, point of the story is nobody deserves to live alone. Nobody. Nobody. It's called abandonment of the offspring. It's very fucking nasty. It's misconduct by all means. In some cases, it is found to be racketeering. Um, there's another case in France, actually not too far from where our first story started off. There's another story in France. There's a young French woman lived alone, and she was on benefits. They had her on benefits, lucrative benefits, to pay all her bills, to pay for her housing. And then this French woman, young French woman, kept, I don't know what else to describe it, but it kept reporting that her house was haunted. And she would hear clawing at the basement door. Well, it turns out her house was not haunted. They left her alone with a starved, ravaged dog. And that starved, ravaged dog, one night, uh, dug its way through the basement door and had eaten the young French woman alive. So, she used to report to her family and to her friends every day, every hour on the hour, that something was wrong. Well, when days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, and months turned into a year, it had been a year since that woman had reported that her house was haunted and she was being creeped out by clawing noises at her cellar door. So, after a year of no one being there, naturally, the house began to reek of rigor mortis and decay of the human flesh. And French police rode up in there and found there was French police rode up in there, kicked the door open and everything. And as soon as they did that, a ravaged, starving dog darted toward them, actually ran toward them, and the French police shot the dog 6 times. And then the police turned around and brought the family up on charges for neglect, abandonment, racketeering. The French woman was completely malnourished because they left her in the house with no food. And they left her in a house with a starving, ravaged dog. And, the parents were brought up on charges for murder. Oh, but you see, I am French American. So that story hits home with me. As, let me tell you a little bit about my story. Is I was young. I was a young punk. I was watching scary movies up on the social media. I was scaring the piss out of myself every night, staying up, scaring the piss out of myself every night. And when I was left, when I was left home alone, I would get so scared and I would have to call the police, and the spirits, the monsters, would fuck with me. Many times, as the police had to come and scare off the monsters. As years ago in that house in the pew, in that Sawyer house in the pew, there was a monster. There was I would even call it a bear, a man-like bear monster with claws. Where are your parents? Where are your parents? Come here. Come here now. Come here now. Come here. Come here now. And then the creature stick the child would stick the person with the claws and commit cannibalism and eat the victim. Come here. Come here now. I remember it. I remember it. It's not gonna say his name though. Not gonna say his name though. And another one. I'll tell you another one. The Chuck E. Cheese mascot. The real Chuck E. Cheese. The real Chuck E. Cheese was a monster, a murderer, and a killer. Carnivorous, gore, carnivorous, gory, bloodthirsty rat. This overgrown, this overgrown abomination. The real Chuck E. Cheese, the original Chuck E. Cheese mascot. So I was watching a video about the real Chuck E. Cheese, and I was staying at my mom's house, and that fucker bolted up the stairs and stood at the edge of my bed, and then my family popped out, and my younger brother, kept smacking the beast in the head with a baseball bat. And then the beast turned around like an owl, turned its head like an owl, and shot demon eyes at my little brother. And then the creature had explained, "Oh, you're such a pussy. You bring others into our fight? You're a pussy." And then the creature was fucking punking me off. And like, no, you would have been the pussy. You would have been the pussy. Because you attacked me. You had no problem attacking me when I was by myself. Now when I got my support, now when I got my people, you run away with your tail between your legs like a punk bitch. You got no problem trying that shit on someone who's alone and afraid, because you're a bully. And, you know, when the victim's family and friends all jump in and fend off the bully and peel him off of the victim, how soon does the bully turn into the pussy? How soon? Yeah. Many a nights is my mother would leave me alone in an empty house. And even pay people to fuck around with me. Ever since 2012, when I got out of the hospital, because my dad put me in a hospital because it was time. It was time to get my own house. It's time to get my own house. It's time for me. I was at age, I had to move on. I had to get my own house. And so my dad did a very nasty thing, did a very rotten thing. It's called the cops on me and made up some story that I went after him with the baseball bat. It's my dad went to ECMC and he lied on me. He fucking lied on me. Like a little fucking faggot. When in fact I did pull a golf club on him. Because he had a very nasty habit of putting his hands on me. And so I was 16 years old. I was 16 years old with a golf club and I beat the fucking shit out of him with it. I'm like, touch me again, you fucking faggot. I'll end your life, you fucking piece of shit. So, there's my dad, Leopold Poisson, has a very nasty habit of putting his hands on young kids. And if he would have went to jail, and if he would have went to jail for that shit, he wouldn't have lasted. Why? Because real men are not pussies that put their hands on little ass kids. You take that to the bank. Yeah, Leopold Poisson loves to put his hands on little ass kids. 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old. And now, that was what happened with me, and I was, I was 19 years old. 19 years old. And my dad brought this punk ass motherfucker to my house, Nathan Kruger. And Nathan Kruger kept talking shit. And he was like, wait till he goes to bed. Wait till he goes to bed. Oh yeah, we're going to have such a splendid night. Wait till he goes to bed, Dingleberry. Wait till he goes to bed. And so my dad slipped me some weed to get me to so-called calm down and keep my cool. No, he gave me some weed. He gave me some marijuana. Leopold Poisson slipped me some marijuana so I would nod off and go to sleep. And that faggot Nathan Kruger, that very fucking faggot Nathan Kruger, could put his hands, could touch me in my sleep. Well, I had none of it. I didn't even smoke it. I went to the cops. I went to my mom's, and my mom's like, "No, that's your house, Andre. That punk ass motherfucker never should have been in your house." And so my mom got a restraining order for me, in order protection for me, that if that Nathan Kruger faggot, ever approached that house ever again, he would be arrested. And Nathan Kruger has a very nasty habit of putting hands on people. Mama's little bitch boy, mama's little pussy. Well, guess what, Nathan? You should have never walked away from that accident. And you're using that accident as a crutch. Bitch boy. Which is why everywhere you go, there's a gang of people chasing after you, waiting to fucking jump you. Why? Because you're a faggot. Faggot. Hey, bitch boy. Hey, faggot. Suck the yogurt out of your mother's dead pussy. You fucking faggot. And so, this. Because what does my mom do for me? My mom does not do fucking shit. My mom lets me stay home alone, stay in the house all by myself, scared shitless, shit pissed scared that monsters and people and bad people are gonna fuck with me and beat on my house and break in and fucking kill me. Just like them 2 stories I told you. Well, Teresa Marie Eisenhower, you better hope I don't die in my sleep. Because the cops are gonna charge you with murder, asshole.